When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocca's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocca's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
It's the season for brand new mulch, and Brown's Tree Service has got your yard covered. Brown's Tree Service utilizes hardwood mulch that retains more moisture. Not only does mulch make your yard more appealing, it also reduces weeds, improves soil, and creates insulation for plants. Get the right mulch for your job at Brown's Tree Service. They shred it, haul it, and spread it in bulk. Or you can haul it yourself for the personal touch to your property. Call Brown's Tree Service at 785-379-9212 or visit online at brownstreeservicelc.com.
It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.
Good Saturday morning to you. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I am back with my guest host for the month, Rick Glade. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing great. On our last show, we were talking about building wealth and mentioned Rob Flick, who had been diagnosed with cancer, thought he was going to pass, did not, lost everything in that process, and then rebuilt, and now is through EXP and his revenue share and stocks and all that he's got going on, has built this amount of wealth that it's taken a minute. He's had to figure out, okay, well, what's my plan? You know, you go from dying to living to, oh, wow, there's a lot of money coming in every month. And just trying to build around that and know what's the right move. And we were just about to get into the thick of that, and then we had to go because we ran out of time. But you've got some great advice there.
Yeah, so again, like I mentioned a little bit, is in one of the previous shows, is that, you know, by the time I get involved, and it's not because by the time I get involved, by the time people come to me and ask for me for advice or you know, counsel, and they hire me to kind of, you know, take them down that path, what happens is they're already behind the eight ball, and now we need to figure out how to, you know, reverse that course. And so in Rob's case, you know, we were talking about how, again, he had crushed it in real estate. He had crushed it in sales. He was doing sales at that time, commercial, and, you know, living in an 8,500 square foot house and all the great bells and whistles, and had all the stuff. And again, like I said, most of that stuff is an ego play for most people. I'm not saying you shouldn't reward yourself with nice things as you progress in your journey to wealth. However, just don't do it for the wrong reasons. Don't do it for likes on Instagram. Don't do it for likes on Facebook. Don't do it because you're trying to impress your friends who have no dog in your race. Most people don't realize that they're just trying to compare their lives to somebody else's instead of their own. And so, but in Rob's case, that wasn't necessarily his personal downfall. His personal downfall was that he got struck with an ailment, cancer, and again, as you mentioned, he thought, and the doctors thought that he was going to pass away. Luckily, and you know, thanks to God and the universe and all those great things, he survived, and he, again, as you mentioned, found Keller Williams and started a process there, and then eventually found EXP and put that process of residual income into hyperdrive, and now is doing very well successfully. But the problem is that there was no layups along the way, and so his journey to that process of creating mass amounts of residual income was just over 3 years. But there was no layup during those 3 years, meaning there was no layup to the success plan. There was no layup to how do I maneuver this newfound wealth and do it where I'm not getting taxed to death and where I'm not having people come at me from liability avenues. So all that being done in advance of that, along the way, is really the way to sustainable wealth. One thing that the top 1% of the 1%, and I've had the fortune to be able to be in the presence of a lot of those people, like I said, the Rockefellers, some of the descendants of the Rockefellers, the Eisner family from Disney, the Marciano brothers from Guess. Those guys are very high-level 1% high net worth individuals. I've been part of some masterminds with those people. And the main thing that they focus on is what they call wealth preservation. It's not wealth accumulation. And so most of us are on a journey for wealth accumulation. However, you need to be doing both. You need to figure out, how am I going to preserve this wealth if I hit that benchmark?
So what would be the ideal way of setting that up? I mean, as not in detail, but what would you do? Would you speak to a financial planner? Who would you go to?
No. Financial planner is a cuss word in my book. And the reason I say that is because, financial planners, most of them, not all of them, most of them, they're W-2 earners, right? So I'm not going to take advice from a W-2 earner. I'm not going to take advice from somebody who's looking to push product down my throat, for lack of a better term, to benefit them, right? And not all financial planners are that way. So what you want to do is you want to get with somebody like me, or somebody who has the ability to, navigate you without benefit. Now, there might be some benefits through affiliation or things like that. For example, I have affiliations with some high-level companies that do asset protection. They do energy structuring. They do tax advisory and things like that. There's one thing that you want to understand. Tax preparation and tax advisory are two different animals, and most people get it at the same place. They're getting their tax advice from an accountant, and that's okay. However, you want to get your tax advice from somebody at a very high level, and then you just pay somebody to fill out the forms. That's the difference.
Which makes sense, getting your financial planning from someone who has achieved the type of wealth that you want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to, I'm not saying that accountants and CPAs and stuff probably won't have some good ideas, and they may know the tax law, right? But they've never really created any wealth themselves. They've just created a bunch of clients. And so my experience with CPAs, I've had a couple really, really good ones that have gotten me through some what they call correspondence audits. When you get into, I'll say a lot of wealth, and when you get into multiple entity structures and trusts and all these other things, your tax returns look a little different than just a standard, 1040 easy form that you fill out. It's not the H&R Block or the Liberty Tax. It's not that, where you go there and pay them $34.99 and, they give you, an advance on your return. You're not going to get that. It's at a very high level, and you need to treat it high level. And again, you're doing something on purpose, where you're getting what you pay for. But it's interesting because I tell people it's like leveraging, right? It's like leverage is the key to a lot of things. And that's one of the principles I wrote in the Advanced Agent book is how you can leverage other people to create the residual income. And for the CPA example, or an attorney, for example, or a doctor, for example, right? They go out, do all the study, they do all the knowledge base acquisition, and then I get to leverage an attorney, all the stuff that he sacrificed for 8 years, or to become an attorney and all that fun stuff, right? Or the doctor for 12 years. I get to leverage them for a small fee. I can leverage the attorney for whatever it is, $200 an hour, $400 an hour. Right? I can leverage a doctor for a visit of $150, or I can leverage a surgeon to save my life for maybe $100,000. I don't know. But the point is, I didn't have to do all the work. I just used the leverage.
Before we ended our last show, you were talking about health. So maintaining your health while you're building a life. You want to go in some detail about that? Yeah,
absolutely. So I think I mentioned I'm so passionate about it now that I trademarked be wealthy and live wealthy. And again, it's W apostrophe healthy, which HEALTHY. And the key is like the Rob story, right? You never know when it's going to be taken away from you, meaning your health. You never know, what type of ailment may affect you or somebody in your family. And so, for me personally, once I hit a certain benchmark of wealth, I decided I was going to take a step back, and I think I mentioned that, but I was going to take a step back and really focus on my health in general. And not that I was living an unhealthy lifestyle, but now I really, really intentionally focus on what kind of foods I put in my body, what kind of supplements I put in my body, and what type of exercise regimen do I have. And, again, I'm not perfect, but I focus on it. Most people don't even focus on it. And so, again, it's going back to some of our, clarity, momentum, and accountability stuff, and kind of just being intentional with what you do. The Dalai Lama statement where people sacrifice all the health to gain wealth and then only to reverse all that course. So I just recently got involved, again, the entrepreneurial bug in me. Just got involved in a DNA science-based nutrition company. And so for myself personally, my journey has been, I've been taking what we call blind nutrition for about the last 15 years. And what basically blind nutrition means is that I would research something, or I would hear about something, or I would look at a study, or I would look at something printed in an article or a magazine or online or whatever it may be, and it would say, hey, this works really well for you, and this does this, and this does this. But it was really me just taking, the faith of that and just taking the supplement blindly, right? And I had, my metabolic panels are really well, no cholesterol, no diabetes, none of that kind of stuff. So obviously if it's working, I'm going to continue that regimen. However, now, as of late, they've just come out with DNA-based formulation of that. And so what they do is they kind of do like 23andMe. They literally swab your cheek. And when they swab your cheek, they actually do a DNA analysis on you as an individual, and then they create the formula based on the genetics. So your parents have either one or more passed a certain gene down to you. So, for example, the gene of possible diabetes or heart disease or liver disease or something like that. There's certain what they call SNPs, and those SNPs are variants of the genes. And you either have both parents that gave you that, you have one parent that gave you that, or you have neither parent that gave you that variant. And so based on those outcomes, so in other words, if you had two parents that gave you the diabetes prone gene, we'll call it, you would then be subscribed to a formula that was in effort to enhance those genes the best. It's really going from blind nutrition to precision nutrition, and it's pretty remarkable. And you can, it's basically currently it's about $159, and they run the DNA swab, and they actually build the formula and then send it to you on a monthly basis. So it's called 1U, and the 1U means literally there's only one of you, and that's why the formula is built for you.
So they send you basically a swab to swab your mouth, and then you send that in, and they create this formula?
Correct. Yep. And the interesting thing is, I'm a high-level privacy guy. I don't like really, sharing a bunch of my information. So the first thing I had, my son had done 23andMe, and he said, Dad, if you do 23andMe, it'll tell me, which genes came to you, and so on and so forth. And I said, I'm not doing 23andMe. I said, they're selling my information. They're doing all that stuff you hear about. And I said, I'm not really interested in that. However, 1U, what they do is when you swab your cheek, you put the swab into a vial. The vial goes into a sterile envelope. The sterile envelope only has a barcode on it, so it doesn't even have your name on it. So they couldn't sell your information if they tried. So it's HIPAA compliant, super private, and it was something that I said, okay, I'll do this now. Makes a ton of sense.
So when you did the test, did you find that there were things that needed to be corrected?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I only had, of the 18, I only had one red SNP, and the red means that you have the variant from both parents. Yellow means that you have it from one parent, and green means that you have it from neither parent. So I had one red, and it was actually under immunity health. So I'm subject to like inflammation in the body, potentially like a higher levels of arthritis, maybe like a rheumatoid, things of that nature. What's interesting is I very, very rarely get sick, and it's probably because I've been doing such a strong regimen of health and wellness and blind nutrition prior to that. So what this is now going to tailor, and what's interesting is you get the report, you get a 35-page report back, with the SNPs. So it not only tells you, hey, this is your gene variant, it tells you, this is what you can do to control it or to enhance it, and that kind of stuff. And it tells you which supplements. So you don't have to buy their supplements, but if they will tailor the supplements to you directly. And it's something I got involved in an entrepreneur. So there's an affiliate side for me in that, similar to EXP. And so I just want to disclose that. Anybody that was interested and want to reach out to me, I'd be more than happy to share it with them. But there is an affiliate part for me. But I didn't get involved in it because of the affiliate side initially. I got involved in it because of the health side. And that's kind of where we started this, this line of questioning.
So how would they get a hold of you to get more information?
On that one, right now, you can go to Live Wealthy, and again, it's Live, L-I-V-E, Wealthy, W-H-E-A-L-T-H-Y, .Euphoria Science. So Euphoria is U-F-O-R-I-A, Science, SCIENCE.com. So it's livewealthy.euphoriascience.com, and that is, again, Wealthy has a W-H in it.
And I'll be sure and put that on the Facebook page, so be sure and check out Real Estate 101 so that you can track back to that. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back to talk some more.
At SportsMomsUnited.com, we celebrate every athlete and support every sports mom. SportsMomsUnited.com is on a mission to put logic back in youth sports. When you ask young athletes why they play sports, their number one answer is fun. For them, that means being on a team, making new friends, having a good time, all of which are awesome memories. We add to the memories by featuring an athlete of the day and sharing their story. Nominate an athlete today at www.sportsmomsunited.com.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101, and I am back with Rick Glade. Prior to the break, we were talking about the new health regimen that you're going through and how you figured out genetically what was a marker that you needed to be doing something about. You want to give that website one more time?
Sure, yeah. It's Live Wealthy, and Wealthy is WHEALTHY, .euphoriascience.com. And Euphoria is UFORIA. And so it's Live Wealthy, one word, .euphoriascience, one word.com.
And obviously, the whole plan in that was to not just be creating wealth, but staying healthy enough to where you can enjoy the wealth that you've created. Yeah,
exactly. And it's. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, but I really want my 200-year self to like my 100-year self. And so, people, I said, they kind of chuckle when you say that. They look at you like, you're crazy kind of thing. And the reality is, I may not live to be 200, but you know what? At this point, they're talking about stem cell therapy. They're talking about, the DNA stuff and the genetics and epigenetics and, all that stuff is really, really advancing way fast. I mean, if we look back just to technology and AI and all the crazy stuff that's happening and throughout our lifetimes, imagine what's going to happen, in our children's lifetime. It's funny. I used to say, I was still amazed, and I'm still today. I'm amazed that they put a man on the moon. When I get up in the morning, I look at the sun and I partake of the sunshine and kind of embrace vitamin D. I also look back and reflect at the moon. And, you can physically see the moon, the object. You can see it. And it amazes me today back in the 1960s, they were looking at that going, oh, yeah, I'm going to go land on that thing someday, right? And they did it. I mean, we all know they did it, right? Some people say it was a conspiracy, but, the reality is I believe they did it. So, but those kind of things are amazing, those type of imaginative people and stuff. So from a health standpoint, God only knows, the universe only knows where we're going to be. But I do see the advances, and I just, so I don't think that, us living long term, which is all coming back to the sustainable wealth, right? If you really look at the statistics, they say that most people have $400 in savings. Most people. They could not sustain a 2-week life event. Basically, they couldn't stand, 2 weeks of no income, they're wiped out. So, if you're going to live to be 100, and you've got all these baby boomers coming up right now, and I have personal friends that have absolutely no retirement plan. Zero. If you look at what's going on, they're kicking even the Social Security age up and up and up, right? They incentivize you to work longer. You used to be able to retire at 62 and a half, I think it was, on Social Security. Well, now it's like you're all the way up into 70 and a half, and I think even 72. And the longer you stay on the program, the more chips you get, right? Not much. You get $40 more a month. So yeah, just keep killing yourself as long as you can, and we'll give you $40 more a month because we know we're going to give it to you for less time. Right? So it's very important to me to really, really focus on your health. One of the books that I didn't mention is an anthology book that I participated in with a good friend of mine who's the bestseller guru, they call him. And anthology book, there's multiple people write chapters. And so this book was called Wake Up, How to Live a Healthy and Vibrant Lifestyle. And I wrote the final chapter in that book. It was called Wired to Be Wealthy. And I really became a practitioner of, being intentional and kind of mindfulness and meditations and Qigong and some of the other stuff that most people think is a little far out there. But when you can really focus on your body at a cellular level and a genetic level, I think that you can really not only understand your own health, but you can understand the benefits of creating the health and wellness together. That's why I kind of formed the trademark of the Live Wealthy hybrid of health and wealth together.
Absolutely. And you think about it. I know my dad's generation, he would always say, as soon as I retire, I'm going to travel. And he died at 58.
Yeah. So true.
And he never even got to retire, which is also why I'm a travel junkie now. I'm like, you know what? He always said before he passed, he said, don't do what I did. He said, you're a hard worker. If you go and you spend too much money, you come back, you work harder. Just don't kick the can down the road and never even get to pick the can up.
So true. Well, that was great advice, and I hope you heed it. I've done the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. And everybody should. Like I said, it's really about everybody making life choices, and some people make unhealthy choices, and some people become addicts, and thank God I never experienced any of that, but I do have family members that are in that realm. And so, I've watched people self-destruct, and I've watched people that have, mentored and coached self-destruct, not only financially, but, health-wise, and, get into addictions and all those kinds of things. And it's easy. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy to do. I guess we see it all the time. So to me, it's, from a sideline view, I guess I say it, it's easy to get in that. But I think if you really, if you really want the end game to be what it is, then those distractions don't tempt you, if you will. And you can do, like you said, you can pick up the can along the way, and you can smell the roses and all the metaphors that we use. But are people really, really doing that?
I think you're right. You said several times in a couple of the other shows that life gets in the way, and just trying to keep up with the house and the kids and the sports and the everyday things going on. I talked to several friends that have already retired, and I'm like, so what do you do with yourself all day? And they're like, I don't even know how I got things done when I worked. It seems like I'm busy all the time. So even retirement doesn't seem to slow down. So.
Yeah. No, and it's so true, right? And I mean, and we have such a fast-paced lifestyle, everybody right now. And like I said, it seems like it's only getting, faster and faster. And depending on where you live, if you live in Southern California, you're sitting in 2.5 hours of traffic one way to go to work. And, so your day is consumed by, 8 hours of work or probably 10 hours of work. And then, 2.5 hours of travel one way and then 2.5 hours of travel back. And then, like you said, you get home and there's the kids, the dog, the soccer, the piano lessons, the whatever, right? And then, there's the spouse. And where's the quality time? Where's the quality time for yourself? Not to mention your other family members and so on and so forth. And, it's kind of, I get reminded all the time. I'm off right now, as I mentioned, at one of my other houses, and there's a project here that I'm working on and building a development project, a real estate project, and I'm developing. It's a mini storage, and my wife is at our other house, and so I've been away on and off for a couple weeks at a time, and just kind of managing the cruise and what we got going. And she sent me a text. She says, "Hey, whatever the heck you're doing, I hope that it's important enough to be away from your family."
Ooh. Somebody needs to plan a trip home.
Right? Yeah, so I did. I've had people, especially earlier on, they were like, "Oh my gosh, all you ever talk about is money," or "All you ever do is work," or "All you ever do is this." And even I push my kids because I love them, right? I push my family members because I love them. All that being said, my one son, my younger son, said to me, he says, "Dad," he looks at me one time, he says, "Dad," he goes, "You know what? I'm not you." And so me trying to force my values, my lifestyle, my ambition, my workaholicism, my drive and all that stuff onto somebody else, the reality is it's called frame control. So I'm looking forward through a picture frame from my side of the frame. And they're standing on the opposite side of that picture frame, and they're looking through their version of that picture frame. And so sometimes we have to reflect back onto the other side, right? We have to we can't just look at through our vision and through our perspective. We have to, take into consideration the other people around us. People used to tell me, "All you ever talk about is money." And the reality is this: it's not that I talk about the money. I talk about what the money can do for you, the options that it creates, the freedom that it creates. And I tell people this: at least 80% of your day is going to be surrounded around money. And what I mean by that is every decision you make, from the time you get up in the morning and put your feet on the carpet or the wood floor or the concrete or the ground that you place your feet on, that costs money. From the shoes you put your feet in, from the socks you put on, from the clothes you wear, from the light switch you turn on, from the water you turn on to brush your teeth, from the soap that you shower with, I guarantee you it costs money. And so people need to focus on, if it's going to cost money, what do? I have two things that I tell people. The answer is money. Now, what's your question? The second thing I tell people is the answer is love. Now, what's your question? You can pretty much figure out life with those two questions. There's not much that you can't solve without money or love. And if you just kind of insert those, and somebody asks you something, the answer is money. Now, what's your question? And the second one, the answer is love. Now, what's your question? And the only other thing you can't do with those two things is basically cure health. Indirectly, you probably could, right?
Right.
You might be able to. You might be able to buy the best surgeon if you got the money, right? You might be able to increase your awareness and your longevity through love, right? Especially if you take that love into an exponential, universe and pay it forward and take it to a cellular level with your own body and love yourself for who you are, what you are, and you probably will have some health benefits out of that.
That leaves you with a lot to think about this weekend. That's some deep stuff. I want to thank you for joining me. We will be back again next Saturday to talk more. I can't wait to see how the show is going to go. Thanks again for joining us. And if you're looking to buy or sell, be sure and give us a call at 785-213-5188. Thanks for listening to Real Estate 101.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.